You guys are gonna have to forgive me on today's episode because I'm actually a little under the weather, so, what better time than now to talk about the zombie apocalypse? Hi there everyone, it's me, Aaron, and welcome to another episode of Comic Class, the show every single week on this channel where we just geek out about comic books. And no, I was not kidding in that intro, I actually am kind of under the weather today, so if my voice is extra raspy in this video, you're welcome, people out there who enjoy that for some odd reason. But I also wasn't kidding when I said that we are going to be talking about zombies, because for the past couple weeks, Tom Taylor has been teasing something over on Twitter. He's been putting out there one incredibly vague tweet after another, clearly lines from something that he was writing that implied that something horrible was happening to DC characters, and then he would always hashtag it DCeased, which is one of the best puns in comic book history, and I'm honestly shocked no one has thought of it until now. But it was very clear from anyone reading these tweets that he was implying something terrible was going to happen to these characters. And I've talked about this many times before on the channel. I know how the sausage is made. I understand that you gotta do whatever you gotta do in order to sell your books. I get it. I understand that this is a tough business. But I'm not a fan of people teasing the possible death of characters in order to incentivize them to buy a book. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm opposed to characters dying or I'm opposed to terrible things happening to characters. No, that's just a part of their stories many times. In fact, some of the most important developments for characters have all revolved around death or other tragic events. I don't just mean their origin stories, otherwise we would have no superheroes out there. But yeah, I understand that's part of their stories, but when someone uses the potential death of a character to try and get people to read a book, it always feels like they're using the love that readers have for characters against the people reading the books. It's always kind of felt to me like they're taking a beloved character and putting a gun to their head and saying, if you want to know if this character lives or dies, you better pick up this book. So I was turned off kind of instantly. I didn't talk about this at all. The only thing I said on Twitter was I basically just said, I don't even want to talk about this, just so that people wouldn't ask me about it. As I said, I understand it's part of the business, but I don't want really anything to do with it. So, as you can all imagine, when they announced DCeased, a new zombie apocalypse story that was going to be hitting the DC universe in which many of our favorite characters were going to face tragic deaths and be tortured in ways that we've never seen before, I was very clearly quite happy with it. That's the entire reason that I wanted to talk about this book today, because I brought this up before, but I've kind of stopped talking about books just being announced, simply because it's not the best thing for the channel. Nobody really wants to tune in after the book comes out to hear what you thought about the book being announced. They just want to know what you thought about the book itself. So yeah, these things don't really have the longest shelf life, so I've kind of stopped doing announcement videos. However, as I said, I have made it clear many times, I don't like people using the potential death of characters to tease their books. This is the time it's okay. I felt it was important to come in here and go, no, if you want to do that, this is kind of the perfect place to do that. This is exactly the situation where you should do that. An alternate reality story where none of it is affecting the canon. Do whatever you want over there, man. In fact, the crazier you get in an alternate reality story, the better. That's the stuff that we're looking for over there. That's why alternate reality stories are so darn fun. You can just go nuts over there. If you told me that all these different characters were going to die in the main DC continuity, I would look at that and be like, alright, yeah, sure, fine. Almost all of them are going to come back almost instantly. It's not really going to matter anything down the line. People have been asking me to talk about Cyclops returning back from the dead. Guys, it was 2 years ago that he died, and he's just kind of back, and no one liked his death, so he's here. That's it. It's fine. It really means kind of nothing to me. And Cyclops is my favorite X-Man. So there's that. But this over here, if you come in here and tell me all these DC characters are going to die, I'm going to think, oh my goodness, they actually mean it in this alternate reality. That's actually going to happen, guys. Yeah, when you do stuff like this over in an alternate reality, it actually, oddly enough, has more weight by not being canon, because we know in this story, it's canon. We know in this story, it's actually going to really mean something, but at the same time, the main universe where the main characters that we really love are existing and we get to follow them over there, that's going to continue and it's going to be completely unaffected. So it's almost like just opening up a big old toy box over there and you get to pick up your action figures and smash them into each other. I am 100% okay with this. It'd be kind of like, for all you video game fans out there, if you told me in the next Mario game you'd be punching Kirby a whole bunch, I'd look at that and go, why is Mario punching Kirby? Why are you doing that? That's not a Mario thing. I don't want to see that. Oh, it's happening in Smash Bros? Which is in no way affecting the other universes and the other main series, and it's not actually canon anyway? Oh yeah, you better believe I'm gonna punch Kirby all over the place. Now for anybody who hasn't really seen the story, this is going to be a 6-issue miniseries that starts in May, which is gorgeous timing, by the way, because May, June, July, August, September, October. The finale to this thing is going to come out at Halloween. That's pretty damn smart. Someone looked at a calendar and said, no, let's think about this. That is great. That is actually gorgeous timing on your part, DC. So yeah, this is a 6-issue long mini-series, again, set in its own reality. And it's going to be written by Tom Taylor. And I think Tom Taylor is easily in the top 5 writers out there in the entire industry at the moment. He continues to blow me away with pretty much everything he does. The only stuff he's really done that I haven't really enjoyed have been like little tiny miniseries that are tied into events, but let's be real, those very rarely are good no matter who you put on those books, so I ain't blaming him for that. But whenever he's given something and he's allowed to just do whatever he wants to do with it, he's incredible. And I think one of the best examples of that is with his Injustice run, which is very clearly how he got this job. I've talked about Injustice many times before here on the channel, and one of the reasons I've talked about it so much is because there is no reason why that should have worked. It was a video game tie-in series. I cannot think of the last one of those outside of Injustice that was good, and yet he made it great. And you can read this and tell they basically came to him and said, okay, here are the beats you gotta hit, and here's where the characters have to end up, but however you get to those beats and however we get to that end destination, that's all on you. And he put so much weight into that story. He made everything feel important, but he also made everything feel emotional. For anybody who doesn't know, the Injustice games are about an alternate reality where Superman kind of became a fascist and started taking over the entire planet, and Batman had to lead a resistance against him. This was not a universe, though, where Superman was just always evil. It was a universe where Superman was Superman, and something just kind of pushed him to going down the darker path. And Tom Taylor looked at that and he realized, okay, if Superman and all these other heroes are going dark, that means a lot of tragic stuff has to happen. And we love these characters. We have an emotional attachment to these characters. So seeing them go down a darker path, it's going to kind of hurt. So I need to really make it hurt. I can't just come in here and just have something big and terrible happen. I have to show the ramifications of that. I have to show people thinking this out. I have to show every stage of that playing out in these characters' heads and in this world that these characters exist in. There is like one moment in there in which Superman and the Flash are talking about trying to take over the entire world so they can make it a better place. And it's all just a conversation over chess, and it is a brilliantly written conversation in there. And I have said many times before, when you're having big, horrible things happening, conversations are so important. And Tom Taylor is a guy who proved on Justice, but also on several other books that he's written over the years. Yeah, he understands that. But again, going back to Injustice, the other thing that I said that he understood was, we all know these characters, and we all really love them. We all have an attachment to them. And he was able to play around with the emotional attachment that readers have to these characters over in that series. And this is going to be those same characters in a zombie apocalypse. You better believe he is going to crank those emotional levels up to 12. He is going to go even higher with that. And I am so excited to see what he ends up doing on this series. I can already imagine all the possible situations that are going to arise from this. I mean, the Flash gets infected, and now you've got a super speedster zombie just running all over the place, infecting everyone in the blink of an eye. You could have like a moment where Cyborg gets infected and half of him is a zombie, but the machine half is still trying to be a hero. There's brilliant stuff that you can do in this book. And you guys know me. You know I'm kind of Batmaned out. You gotta really do something special with Batman to make me want to read more Batman at this moment. Batman facing the zombie apocalypse and the world's greatest detective trying to figure out a way to save the planet. That's kind of great. That's a wonderful thing to do with that character, and I really want to read that story. But this isn't just going to be normal zombies. They're going to be like the 28 Days Later Rage zombies. Because this is a techno-virus that was created by DCeased, and I love that one of the ways that they have been promoting this is with the tagline, DCeased was. For anybody who's been reading the Mr. Miracle series, which was really freaking high on our top 100 of the year list last year. So yeah, I advise everyone to go out there and read that book. But he kept having the phrase DCeased is pop up over and over and over again. And I won't come in here and try and explain what the meaning of that was because that would spoil the entire series. But I love that this is going to be a virus created by DCeased. And it just says DCeased was, and you can tell this is going to be something that just gets out of control. You can tell just from those two words, DCeased was, and the fact that this was something created by DCeased, this is going to end up being something that even DCeased, this god who's planned for everything, is going to look at and go, oh, this went south fast. So yes, as you can tell, I'm very excited for this. I'm kind of 100% behind this idea. I'm actually really intrigued to see what Tom Taylor is going to do with horror, because you hear about something like a zombie apocalypse hitting the entire DC universe, you think Scott Snyder, you think James Tynion, you don't really think Tom Taylor. Because even though he did Injustice, I've never really seen him do a lot of horror stuff. So I really want to see what he does with that because, as you guys know from watching this channel, I'm kind of a big horror junkie. It's kind of my thing. I love horror comics, I love horror movies, I love zombie movies. In fact, speaking of that, you know this thing is going to be a big success. It's got Tom Taylor, it's got DC Comics, it's got Batman, and it's got zombies. The only way that this thing could be a bigger success is if DC somehow figured out a way to turn this into a Battle Royale game. By the way, why is there not a zombie Battle Royale game out there? And I don't mean that crappy single player thing that they have in Fortnite. I mean like an official thing. No, I know that this is going to be a big hit, so I highly doubt that DC is going to look over at Tom Taylor and be like, oh, you want to have this in with everybody being dead and there is no chance of a sequel? That's totally fine. No. DC, they can see the possible future for this. DC knows this is going to be big, so I would be stunned if they didn't leave this up to some kind of a sequel when it's over. And I'm just going to throw this out there. Everybody out there is looking at this and going, oh, this reminds me of Marvel Zombies. And yeah, you should say that because it does remind us of Marvel Zombies. But here's the thing, Marvel Zombies was freaking great. If you've never read Marvel Zombies, it's one of the best zombie comics that's ever been written. In fact, here's something that a lot of people don't really talk about. The very first Marvel Zombie story was written by the guy who went on to create The Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman. No one ever really brings that up that much, but it's a really cool fact. So yeah, everybody's been comparing this to Marvel Zombies, which is to me a huge compliment. I think that this could actually really live up to the quality of the first Marvel Zombies book. Here's something that nobody really remembers. They might remember what the second Marvel Zombies book was. They might remember what the sequel to Marvel Zombies was. I don't mean Marvel Zombies 2. There was another thing that came out in between Marvel Zombies and Marvel Zombies 2 that nobody really remembers. Because Marvel has tried to bury it. The sequel that came out to Marvel Zombies was Marvel Zombies versus Army of Darkness. The sequel that they did to Marvel Zombies was a story about Ash Williams, the protagonist from the Evil Dead and Army of Darkness franchise, falling into the Marvel Zombie universe and him trying to find a way back home as all these superheroes are getting infected. I kid you not, that's a thing that actually exists, and somewhere in storage half a country away, I still have all the issues in a locker somewhere. I'm not willing to fly that far away to try and read it again, but I do remember absolutely loving that as a big Marvel Zombies and as a big Evil Dead fan. But here's the thing. Marvel, over the past couple of years, for some reason, I don't know if they've ever actually explained this or not, but for some reason, they've just sworn off crossovers. They just said, we're done with crossovers. That's it. We are never going to stick our chocolate in someone else's peanut butter. That is just not a thing that is happening at all. DC, on the other hand, is crossover crazy. DC, on the other hand, is crossing over with everybody these days, including Dynamite. They have a pretty good relationship with Dynamite Comics, the people who still to this day put out the Army of Darkness comics. So I am just going to throw it out there and just say, if Marvel is not going to give us another Army of Darkness Marvel Zombies crossover or even reprint the original, then DC, you know what you have to do. I'm just saying, we'd all be very happy with that. Nobody here would be upset if we got to see, Ash Williams going up against Deathstroke, or, him making really dumb jokes in front of Batman and getting slapped around like in that old meme of him hating Robin. Yeah, it's stuff that we would all love to see. Make it happen, DC and Dynamite. Or do you just not like printing money? Again, I know that I am jumping way too far ahead on this one. I know that I am coming in here and I am just fanboying out over this, but it's Tom Taylor doing horror, and a horror side event that's going to affect the entire DC universe. Yeah, man, I'm excited for this thing. And as I said, I know it's going to do well. It's Batman fighting zombie Joker, or Joker fighting zombie Batman, or both of them teaming up to fight zombie Superman. Everything that I just described there would go into quadruple printing just on the premise alone. So, yeah, man, I am excited for this. I cannot wait to see what they do. And again, as I said, I wanted to come in here and just say, this is the time in which it's okay to use the possible death of characters to promote your book. Because this isn't a matter of, oh God, what are they going to do to this beloved character? Instead, it's, oh God, what are they going to do to this beloved character? Yeah, I can't wait to see what they end up doing in this series. And also, I'll say, on a personal level, I'm actually really intrigued by this because time to get a little bit honest here. Time to get a little bit emotional with you guys. I have a friend who is currently going through some rough times. It's some medical stuff. But when I first met him, we were talking about comics. And one thing that he mentioned is that he always dreamed of writing a zombie storyline in the DC universe. He always wanted to do a Marvel zombie style story for DC characters. And yeah, it's kind of rough, everything that is happening to him right now. But I can't help but think about how happy he must be to know the thing he always wanted to see is actually happening right now. So I'm kind of happy about that. And I can't help but come in here and try and spread that around to everybody else out there. But let me know what you think about DCeased. By the way, how am I supposed to say this? DCeased? DCeased? How am I, can we put a hyphen in that hashtag rather than just DCeased? I don't know. But yeah, let me know what you thought about this. Let me know how you pronounce it in the comments down below. And if you want more from us, you can always follow me on Twitter and Twitch at Professor Authority. And if you want to help support this channel, then you can always join our Patreon over at patreon.com/Professor Authority. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time. Bye.